All right, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we're going to talk about Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, and Tyson Fury in the heavyweight division, and the fact that Eddie Hearn says that he's willing to make the undisputed fight with Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua if Deontay Wilder gets past Tyson Fury. Big case of I will believe it when I see it. But let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. And look, this is a video that I'm going to make, and I'm going to tell you Eddie Hearn says it, but I don't believe it. Eddie Hearn says that he is willing to make the Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua fight if Deontay Wilder gets past Tyson Fury. Before we get into that subject matter of the video, though, I'd like, please, if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the videos. It really does help the channel grow and is greatly appreciated. Look, man, we have been here before with this, and this is something that I think is something that is right to do in boxing and something that would really be great for boxing, but something that I really, I have a hard time believing because, Eddie Hearn is not necessarily a guy that is known for telling the truth. Anthony Joshua at one point in time was the big, great rising star in the boxing world. And Deontay Wilder was the WBC champion. And, there was only one step left to get the undisputed championship for the heavyweight division. And Eddie Hearn had the opportunity to make the fight, but Eddie Hearn chose not to make the fight. He chose to engage in a bunch of chicanery, a bunch of media ploys, a bunch of, talk, but he was very unwilling to have Anthony Joshua step in the ring with Deontay Wilder. So I'm like, why would you start saying now that you're willing to make that fight if Deontay Wilder gets past Tyson Fury? And the reason that I can see behind this is that Anthony Joshua is just not the star that Anthony Joshua used to be. And Eddie Hearn, when he came to the America, before he had the whole DAZN thing and all that, was really betting on that Anthony Joshua could be, the standard bearer for matchroom boxing, and matchroom boxing could go around and take over the rest of the world of boxing, take over the lighter divisions, come over to the United States of America, take over the United States of America boxing scene. And Eddie Hearn was going to build all this stuff off of Anthony Joshua. Unfortunately for Eddie Hearn, it turned out that Anthony Joshua was not all that he was cracked up to be in a boxing ring. And so he winds up losing a fight that everybody thought he was going to win and should win by knockout to Andy Ruiz, who was, according to Bob Arum, is somebody that you consider to be a light punching heavyweight. So Anthony Joshua gets exposed, and now, Anthony Joshua in the fights that he's attempting to make are pretty much, ones that are going to be focused in Europe, because that's where, he has most of whatever remains of his star power, and he really doesn't have any of that, in the United States. So the reason why, Deontay Wilder's name is still being used by Eddie Hearn is because Deontay Wilder, despite the loss to Tyson Fury, and under what I consider to be dubious circumstances, still has a very big name in the United States and is somebody that people want to see fight. And that's one of the things that, the media really does. At the end of the day, they have some influence over, right, as far as being able to really cover fighters and talk about them consistently, put them on pound for pound lists and all of that, and really generate a lot of interest, right? That's what Eddie Hearn is expert at doing, using the media to to swell up the name of a particular fighter. But in the United States, that all of that publicity that they do for these fighters, it really doesn't, it'll get their name initially recognized. It'll get them to a certain level, but it will not get them to the point where they really have where you really have a grassroots movement behind you. And that's something that Deontay Wilder still possesses, is that groundswell of people that support him. And you could tell that all through that Glovegate issue that the media thought that they could just blow away and not pay any attention to, but yet it just gained more and more steam People still talk about Deontay Wilder. There's still a bunch of videos, popular videos that are made about Deontay Wilder. And that's because Deontay Wilder, over the course of years, despite what Eddie Hearn and the media wanted to say, really did develop himself a core group of followers that are going to support Deontay Wilder and what he does. And that, I think, is very, very needed in the boxing world, and something that Eddie Hearn has to recognize is the case. As was, and now, not to say that Eddie Hearn did not help out Deontay Wilder. I think Eddie Hearn, and all of his talking about Deontay Wilder and calling him, telling people that he's never fought anybody and nobody knows him, and at the same time he was, publicizing Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder's name became basically, attached to one another. And as a result, Deontay Wilder took advantage of all of the media, was the beneficiary of all the media groundswell that was developed by Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. So, that's why I think that he still had that fight is, Eddie Hearn is still willing to say, yeah, he would fight Deontay Wilder if he gets past Tyson Fury, is because of the name and the draw that Deontay Wilder is. And like I said, that is not under the control of the traditional boxing media. Once you have that groundswell, and that has been proven and shown through other PBC fighters like Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis is one of the most popular fighters, young fighters coming up in boxing, and he hasn't had anybody really pushing him in the mainstream media. I think he might have got an Under Armour sponsorship or something, but for the most part, it's just been, a grassroots campaign for Gervonta Davis, out of Baltimore, and then a very, very good, job at promoting him by Mayweather Promotions. But they did the promotional company and Gervonta Davis's very flashy style with all those knockouts, right? Because I don't know how many knockouts in a row he has, but when you have that many knockouts in a row, people start to watch you fight, and they want to see the next fight. They want to see the next knockout, and you can't erase a guy. Can't erase a guy's highlight reel like Gervonta Davis. Another great example of somebody that was grown from the ground up, right, is Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr.'s, out of Dallas, had so much, support in the Texas area, and he continued to fight better and better fighters that, that he continued to grow his fan base. And these are guys like Deontay Wilder that grew it the hard way. So, Eddie Hearn, I think Eddie Hearn would be smart to make that fight with Deontay Wilder and if he gets past Tyson Fury. And I do want to say that, him getting past Tyson Fury is not it's not a given. But regardless of what happens in the fight, I'm still maintaining Tyson Fury cheated in the first two. But if he gets past that's pretty much the most logical fight to make with Deontay Wilder wins, is to make the Anthony Joshua fight. Now, Anthony Joshua obviously has his own problems in whether or not he's going to be able to get past Alexander Usyk, because I think Alexander Usyk is really a live underdog in the fight with Anthony Joshua, especially, if he's able to withstand the power of Anthony Joshua. I think and he's able to put on kind of like a miniature Lomachenko type of fight on him by changing angles and pity-patting him a little bit. I think he could get to a decision win over Anthony Joshua. But, all in all, I hope all the stuff gets worked out, and I hope it really winds up being the case where, Eddie Hearn is being honest about what he would do. I don't think so, but, you let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.